Greetings to all the students. I hope you are studying well for your prelims examination. You are watching Daily News Analysis, an initiative of nextias where we discuss important topics published in different newspapers and on PIB. So today, with the help of today's video, we are going to discuss Ethanol Interest Subvention Scheme, National Commission for Women, US-Iran renewed nuclear deal, and turmoil in Syria. And in editorial analysis, we will be going to discuss a very important wordings of our president, I would say the Vice President of India, a democracy to emocracy, a threat to the good governance. So now let's start with today's daily current affairs topics, which is visible over your screen. First one is Ethanol Interest Subvention Scheme, right? This is the PYQ based on it. We know that this scheme aims to facilitate the conversion of existing sugarcane based ethanol plants into multi feedstock based plant, enabling them to use grains like maize and damaged food grains. For ethanol production. So this is the aim of this particular scheme. Now the objective is to ensure year-round ethanol production, which will improve the sugar mills efficiency and support India's ethanol blending program, which targets 20% of the ethanol blending with petrol by 2025. Now, why do we need this scheme at this moment? The reasons are, first one, there is a limited operational period of sugar mills. For say, in India, the sugarcane crushing restricted to 4.5 months, hardly in a year. That means it reduces plant efficiency, right? It reduces plant efficiency, and this reduction in the plant efficiency, and imagine that for coming 6 to 7 months the mills are not working, that is definitely say that economic viability is questioned. Economic viability of the mills is questioned, right? First thing. Second very important thing, the dependency on the sugar cane based feedstock. For say, we know the fundamental that in India the ethanol production in India is largely based on sugar canes, but climate variations, a fluctuation in the sugarcane output, right? These things are definitely impact ethanol supply. It impact ethanol supply in India, right? So to make sure that the consistent ethanol supply will take place, that is why we need this scheme. Third, very important, the diversification of multi-feedstock. For say, the diversification will allow the use of maize. For say maize, why maize? Because high starch content, right? And high starch content is highly suitable for the ethanol production. First thing. Second, this damaged food grains, right? It reduces the wastage. And support the sustainability of the ethanol production. These are the reasons because of which the scheme is being introduced now. Now the key features of the scheme. The first part is interest subvention details. That means 6% annum or 50% of the interest charged by the banks, whichever is lower, will be done by the government of India. First thing. Second, duration will be 5 years, including a one-time moratorium. Coverage, the loans extended by banks, financial institutions for ethanol plant conversion. The government support, the government will bear the interest subvention cost. That means, for example, for your feasibility to understand that if a sugar mill will take a loan at 10% interest per annum, the government will provide an interest subvention of 6%. That means reducing the effective interest rate up to 4% for the sugar mills or for say cooperative sugar mills. So that is ultimately helpful for their sustenance. Expected benefit of the scheme. The first is economic and industrial benefit. For say, it ensure year-round ethanol production, improving the plant utilization that we just mentioned, boost the financial viability of the cooperative sugar mills, reduces reliance on imported fuels by increasing domestic ethanol production. This is very important aspect, right? The second one is environmental and the agriculture impact. How? It supports waste to wealth initiative by utilizing damaged food grains, right? First one. Second, it encouraging crop diversification because the maize production will become an alternative or it will increase as an alternative feedstock. Second, it reduces the carbon emission by promoting ethanol blending in the petrol, right? Third, the environmental impact. According to a Niti Aayog roadmap 2021, achieving 20% ethanol blending by 2025 will reduce carbon emission by 27 million tons annually. This is a huge amount. The fourth, the program now, a little bit understanding with respect to the ethanol blending program. It was launched in 2033, and always remember, you are studying nowadays for the prelims, these kind of things are indirect question, right? So based on this scheme, there might be a possibility that UPSC will not ask directly question from the scheme, but rather they'll ask the ethanol blending petrol program, right? So launched in 2003, objective was to reduce fossil fuel dependency and boost renewable energy use. Target was 20% ethanol blending in petrol by 2025, and the achievements are that ethanol blending reached to 12% in 2023, reducing crude oil imports in India. First thing. Second thing, it estimated savings up to 41,500 crores in the fuel imports, and there is a data of 2023. Now a little bit of international comparison with respect to India's ethanol blending program. So there are four major countries. For say India 20% and the current blending level is 12%. USA target is 27%, current target is 27%. That means US is ahead of us. Brazil. USA 15%, but the current target is 10%. China 10%, but the current blending level is 3%, right? India's strategy. The modified subvention scheme will help accelerate ethanol production and achieve the 20% blending target by 2025. Now the implementation strategies, the role of key institutions in implementing this ethanol blending scheme. Department of Food and Public Distribution. It will help in the policy formulation and scheme implementation. Spice Board of India promotes diversified feedstock for say alternative crops like maize. National Bioenergy Mission, it supports ethanol blending initiatives. Banks and the financial institutions that provide subsidized loans for ethanol plant conversion. Farmer and industry support initiatives. Training for the farmers in maize cultivation and ethanol production will be given. Very important thing. Second, investment in research for high yield maize, HYM, just like high yield wheat, right? And climate resistant varieties. This is a very important thing. Subsidized inputs for maize growers. The three will be very important aspect for the farmers and the industry support initiatives, right? For example, Spice Organization is working with the FPO, the Farmers Produce Organization in India, to train farmers in sustainable agriculture practices, right? But there are certain challenges in the implementation of the scheme. The first one is limited awareness. Farmer and the sugar still need maintaining or training on multi-feedstock use. First. Second, logistics and the supply chain issue. Efficient storage and transport of maize or DFG required. Third, quality standard and certification. It ensuring ethanol production meets the fuel grade standards is still a major challenge in India. Now the solution and the policy recommendation. First, state level implementation. So states like Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, they are the one who are leading the particular efforts. So rather than becoming a one-sending approach, it has to be a democratic or root based approach. So decentralized way will be the better handling aspect with this scheme. First thing. Second, infrastructure investment, building multi-feed stock storage and processing unit will be of the great demand now. Third, public-private partnership involving the private players in ethanol production will be a sustainable method for the future, right? Government's commitment. The National Bioenergy Mission is investing 10,000 crores in biofuel research and infrastructure. This is additional knowledge, right? This is additional knowledge. Now, this is a practice question over your screen. Try to practice. Now, the second topic of today's daily news analysis, which is National Commission for Women. The topics say that India's got latent row, simply not acceptable, right? There was a case of Pune Walia, right? And this topic is important because of the non-constitutional bodies. So now there has been a question that has been come by the UPSC in the mains paper, but there might be possibility that we'll ask the same question in objective nature as well, right? Now, the evolution and the legal framework. Historically, pre-1992, the women's movement and the reports like the Committee of Status of Women in India 1974 highlighted the gender inequality in India. And from that particular perspective, a more demand for giving more rights to the women started in India, right? It led to in 1990 that National Commission for the Women Act was passed in the parliament to establish an independent body for the women's right. That means in 1992, it was officially established as a statutory body under the Women and the Child Development Ministry. This is a very important thing, that the National Commission for Women is a statutory body in India. Evolution of what I would say the key objective: to review constitutional and legal safeguards, advise the government on certain policy matters related to the women and their rights, redress grievances related to gender discrimination issues, right? Example, this NCW has been instrumental in advocating for the law rights protection of the workers, women from Domestic Violence Act 2005 and Sexual Harassment of the Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. Now the composition, again very important prelims aspect. Chairperson is being appointed by the central government. It is a 5-member body where certain experts are coming from law, education and social welfare. Member secretary, senior government officers facilitating the commission's work, and the tenure will be members serve for 3 years or as specified by the government. That means it could be beyond 3 or minimum 2 and 1 as well, right? Now the structure and function of functions of the NCW. The first, legal and constitutional safeguard. That means reviews laws related to women's rights, suggests legal amendments and the policy changes. First one. Second, complaint redressal and investigation. It addressing domestic violence cases, workplace harassment, dowry death, acid attacks, etc. and conduct the inquiries and the public hearings on the women issues. Third, policy and research advocacy. Recommends women-centric policy to the government and conduct gender studies to identify the gaps that are there in the gender in the policies. Fourth, awareness and the outreach program. For say, it organizes workshops, seminars, awareness campaigns on women's safety, financial independence and health. It for say example, a Mahila Jan Sunwai, a women's public hearing has been conducted by NCW. The fifth one is intervention on high profile cases. This is very important with respect to your prelims examination. It can take suo motu action in cases of the extreme gender violence. For example, in 2022, Bilkis Bano's case seeking legal intervention in premature release of a rapist, right? So this is the function of the NCW. But now, the achievement of the NCW, why it is useful in India for the women. The first is policy interventions. We know that the Maternity Benefit Act 2017 was passed, or I would say 2016 was passed, right? It increased the paid maternity leave from 12 to 26 weeks. Creche facility was there to given by the for the women as well, for the betterment of her child. This has been done all because of the intervention of NCW. First thing. Second, Women's Reservation Bill. It supported 33% of reservation of women in Lok Sabha and the state assemblies. It is in the parliament, right? Second, legal reforms and the court cases. So for particular example, for say triple talaq ban 2019, NCW played a crucial role in advocating for criminalizing instant divorce in Islam. Second, acid attack compensation policy. It ensured compensation for victims under government scheme itself. Fact, very example, that since 2015 till today, the NCW had witnessed that over 2.4 million complaints related to women violence against women, cyber harassment, property disputes, fake cases had been registered under the National Commission for Women. It intervened in the Manipur sexual assault case, ensuring judicial action against the perpetrators. This is the practice questions over your screen. Again a practice question. Now the third topic of today's daily news analysis, or I would say the daily current affairs section. This topic is of very important, very great importance. The reinvigorated, or I would say revamped, USA-Iran nuclear deal, right? This is again an indirect question. An indirect question that has been asked by the UPSC in the PYQ section. Now the background of the Indo-USA, this program. For say 2015, there was this JCPOA signed. That was Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was signed with Iran by Iran and P5+1 nations agreed to nuclear restrictions. First thing was there. Second, restricted Iran's uranium enrichment and nuclear activities in exchange for sanctions relief was there. Third aspect was there. Then IAEA started monitoring the compliance of all the nuclear facilities within the Iran, right? But in 2018, Donald Trump said that we are going to exit from it. And in retaliation to it, there was sanctions reimposed on or sanctions reintroduced on the Iran. And in the aftermath of it, the Iran's retaliated with the breach in the enriched limit that was set with the help of this JCPOA in 2015. So this is just one line. This is the brief theme of the USA-Iran deal. Now the current status of Iran's nuclear program. Uranium enrichment exceeds 60%, but near weapons grade level is 19. That means it is quite near. First thing. Second thing, IAEA reported that Iran has stockpiled enriched uranium beyond the JCPOA limits. Third, Iran insists that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes, but Western nations still remain skeptical because of the geopolitical repercussions in the Middle East and the very basic nature of the particular country as well. IAEA report 2025 says that Iran's uranium stockpile is now 10 times the JCPOA limit, which raises the global concern. Now the Trump proposal, right? He said that direct negotiation with the Iran. He recently wrote a letter to Khamenei, signals a desire for dialogue similar to his diplomatic outreach to the North Korea. Second, it emphasizes, its theme is Donald Trump. So Donald Trump emphasizes that negotiation is better alternative to the confrontation. Second, stronger restrictions on Iran's nuclear program. USA seeks a more comprehensive agreement addressing Iran's ballistic missile program and the regional influence in Syria, Iraq and Yemen. Third, economic incentive and sanction relief. Trump previously indicated willingness to ease sanctions if Iran complies with its stricter nuclear limits set by JCPOA already. Now the Iran's response to all those things. Iran says that they are skeptical about the US intervention given the abrupt withdrawal from JCPOA in 2018 and the very basic nature that we are witnessing in the US's policies from the past 1 month especially. Second, Iran's preconditions is that USA must lift all sanctions before that guarantees against unilateral withdrawal from the future agreements will be signed with the Iran. Iranian Foreign Ministry this is of great importance. He said that we will not engage a deal that undermines our sovereignty, and even the very same has been uttered by the Supreme Leader Khamenei, that Iran will not negotiate with USA under any pressure. Now, the certain international reactions regarding this issue. There are countries like France, Germany and UK, E3 जिसको बोलते हैं हम लोग, have urged restoring JCPOA compliance before negotiating a new deal. First thing. China supports diplomatic engagement but criticizes USA's sanctions-based approach. Third, Israel, on the other hand, opposes any leniency towards Iran, citing the security concerns and the very recent Iran's role in supporting of Hamas and Yahudi rebels. Right? Global view. 60% of the UN member states support a return to diplomatic negotiations over the military escalations, because no one needs a war. Now, there are three possible scenarios that can take place in near future. For say, if successful negotiation will take place, it will lead to certain impact, which is de-escalation of tension, economic relief for the Iran and nuclear restrictions in place. Second case, no deal and the status quo will be maintained. That impact will be continued nuclear escalation, further sanctions, and it will definitely lead to a regional, or I would say the more regional instability. Third, the military action. That would risk of conflict in the Middle East, disruptions in the oil market and the global economic impact, the very same that we have witnessed after the war broke out between Hamas and the Israel. Now, the impact on the oil markets. Iran is a major oil exporter and sanctions will definitely disrupt the global supply of the oil. Second, regional security concern. Israel and Gulf nation fears Iran's nuclear capabilities, right? But USA military presence in Middle East could increase in case of the tensions. This has been said by the USA. Now, what are the challenges at this moment with respect to USA and the Iran nuclear deal? The first challenge is the mistrust between the USA and Iran. First. Second, the diverging interest. For say, USA wants a broader deal. Iran thinks that JCPO, revamp or restoration will take place. So, there is a divergent interest. Third, domestic political constraints. Hardliners in both the nations resist the compromising nature with any of the nation. Now, the roadmap for the solution, that means a way forward. Gradual relief of the sanctions. For say, conditioning easing to incentivize compliance. First thing. Second, multilateral diplomacy involving Russia, China, EU for the balanced negotiations. Third, confidence building measures, transparency, inspections and the legal guarantees should take place so that Iran can come up with its own voice on the table to negotiate better. This is again a practice question over your screen. Practice it. Now, the last topic of this video in the section of daily current affairs, a turmoil in Syria. We have witnessed that based on the places in news, UPSC has asked a major prelims-based questions in the previous past. It is visible over your screen that in 2019 we have a question. And this was question in 2017 we have a question. In 2018 we have a very same question. Or same means that the very base same topic. So now just a little bit about this news. Middle East, that it is about the Syria. It is a Middle Eastern country bordering the Mediterranean Sea between Lebanon and Turkey. The capital is Damascus on the Barada River. Right? This is very important. For say, UPSC may ask this question based on the pair that Damascus is paired with the Barada River or not. First thing. Bordering countries. Syria is bordered by 5 countries. The first is Turkey. Second is Iraq. Third is Jordan. Fourth is Lebanon. And Israel is 5th. The Mount Hermon is the highest point and the lowest point is Yarmouk River. That means Yarmouk River, Barada River are the part of Syria. Euphrates, Tigris are the other major rivers in in Syria. The capital of Damascus we have already discussed, but very important thing is It is thought to be one of the world's oldest continuously inhabited cities, and there are 42 Israeli settlements and civilians land use sites in Israeli controlled Golan Heights. Right? Anti-Lebanon mountains or anti-Lebanon mountains mark Syria's border with the Lebanon, very important. And the Euphrates River is the most important water source and the only navigable river in Syria. This is of very important aspect with respect to your prelims. Right? This only word is there. Now, a map which is visible over your screen. This screen is just to make sure that you understand that this is the Mediterranean Sea. This is again an indirect topic. Mediterranean Sea, and you need to practice that the countries adjoining the Mediterranean Sea. So we say Turkey is there, Egypt is there, Libya is there, Tunisia is there, Algeria is there, right? And this Morocco is there. So these kind of countries, Syria is there, Jordan is there, Israel is there. So these are those countries which are bordering the Mediterranean Sea. This is a practice question over your screen. So now let's start with the editorial analysis of today's video. Visible over your screen is democracy to emocracy. Yesterday, our vice president quoted that there is a need to debate over the shift from democracy to emocracy in India. He further quoted that emotion-driven policies, emotion-driven debates, discourses threatens the good governance in India. He further reiterated the very major fact that historically, populism is a very bad economics, and once a leader is get attached to it, it is very hard to get out of it. So this topic is of great importance with respect to your polity and governance, and yes, your ethical aspect as well, right? And one single point is this essay. This topic may be asked in your essay part as well. So now let's discuss about this topic. These are previous question papers. Now first understand what is emotionally driven policies. But before that, there is a quote from Thomas Sowell. He said that government that is guided by the emotions rather than the reason will always struggle to deliver justice and efficiency. There is another quote which was coming from Lee Kuan Yew, a statesman from the Singapore, I would say the first Prime Minister of Singapore, where he said that good governance is not about making people happy in short term, but ensuring sustainable progress in the long term. So with which we can initiate our essay or our ethics answer with these kind of quotes. Now jump into it. Emotionally driven policies are those shaped primarily by public sentiments, public pressure, or short-term electoral gains rather than an empirical data, expert analysis, or long-term national interest. They often arises in response to some of the reasons. First, public outcry after crisis or disaster, populist political promises, media-driven strategies or narratives, electoral compulsions, and short-term appeasement policies. Now, the threats to good governance whenever we are driving with the emotional driven policies, right? First one is populism over policy rationality. The populist policies often focus on immediate public approval rather than the sustainable governance. That means it leads to fiscal irresponsibility where resources are allocated based on the popular demands rather on the economic prudence. For example, the farm loan waivers in India. Several times we have witnessed that all because of the political compulsions, farm loan waiver took place in India, not only by one single party, but by different parties in different states, right? It lead to a data from the RBI where the RBI said that the 30 or I say less than 30% of the small farmers actually benefit from those kind of such welfare or such waivers, while they create a long-term financial burden on the state budgets. There has been even case study from the side of ADR where it quoted that whenever a political party asked for the farm loan waiver, they had got the tickets or they had won the election. And that is why this is called as one of the very major populist measure in India. But the trend is going narrows now, right? That is why we need that a more sustainable approach such as investment in irrigation or the market access is often ignored. This is the first one. The second one is the legal and the constitutional conflicts. What does it mean? It means that emotionally driven policies often bypass due process of law, leading to a poorly drafted laws with constitutional or legal loopholes which are to be deliberately misused by other people afterwards. Judicial intervention increases, leading to a policy uncertainty. Right? How? The example is demonetization. It was announced as a move to curb the black money in India, but it created short-term economic distress without effectively reducing the illicit wealth in India. Right? Second, one of the very famous NSSO data regarding the demonetization said that around 1.5 million jobs were lost in informal sectors, all due to the cash shortages. I even remember the brass industry is one of the very major city in Uttar Pradesh got all collapsed, all because of the cost, the cash shortages. The Supreme Court of India in 2023 even upheld demonetization's legality, but acknowledged that its flawed implementation was there. That is why even a World Bank study, we can quote things like this, that the policy implemented without stakeholder consultations are 40% likely to face legal challenges or eventually roll back. The third one, economic disruptions and resource mobilization. Policies based on emotions often ignore economic feasibility, which leads to the wasteful expenditure that disrupts the market confidence and the investors' climate in India. Right? For example, free electricity and the water schemes. Many government announces, the freebies in India. But based on this, a CAG report of 2021 quoted that free electricity schemes in Delhi and Punjab has led to the rising power sector debts, affecting the infrastructure investment that could be more betterly utilized in the ways. Even while we know that social welfare is important, but targeted subsidies based on the income criteria would be more sustainable. It's the very same thing as we have done in regarding the poverty estimation program in India, that we were very targeting based. We did approach this thing with the PDS as well, public distribution system, where we went targeting PDS. The results were fruitful, right? Economic Survey 2023 highlighted that India's fiscal deficit remains a concern due to increasing subsidies without corresponding revenue generations. One more thing attached to it, that the subsidies given to the fertilizers earlier in 2017-18 is worth 96,000 crores. But now it has reached to the level of 1,67,000 crores. And the major concern is that subsidy is giving with a very good intent many times. But the rationality of users of the subsidies, the money giving as a subsidy is not that scientific. That is why we are not getting the results. The fourth one is social polarization and the policy paralysis. How? For say, the policies framed under the emotional pressure often lead to divisive politics. For say, lack of consensus among the stakeholders results in the implementation failure. This Nirbhaya case was there, we know, right? And out of this Nirbhaya case, there was a act came to the limelight in 2013. But later on, many judicial pronouncements, there was a say, or the legal people say that there was certain loopholes in the acts that was there, right? The very same way, the implementation of Citizenship Amendment Act CAA 2019, it passed amidst the heated political debates, and CAA led to nationwide protest due to concern over religious discrimination. Rather, I would say that there was a misinformation. Misinformation were percolated by certain people against the CAA. But the point was that it was passed amid heated political debates, right? Which led to its delay, I would say. That reason, the government had to delay the NRC implementation due to lack of clarity over a particular time. A well-planned, this is the approach now, well-planned consultative approach could have been avoided unrest and ensured the smooth execution of any of the policy. And there is another one OECD report 21 says the policies without or made without stakeholders consultation fail 65% of the time due to public resistance. And we have found this thing even in the case of farm bills, that all because of the resistance of the farmers, we had to roll it back. Fifth one, reactionary versus long-term policy making. This is a threat. Crisis-driven policies often lack long-term vision, and the immediate measures overshadow the structural reforms. So, in both ways, this is a threatening to the good governance. For example, COVID-19 lockdown. A nationwide lockdown was done abruptly, leaving millions of migrant workers stranded. And there's another CMIE data set that 75 million people lost their jobs due to lack of planning for the economic disruptions. But rather, there is a solution that perhaps there were countries like Germany and the South Korea who adopted the phased lockdowns with social security support, that minimizing the economic shocks upon the country and upon the migrant workers or different unorganized, disadvantaged position people. But now the second point of it, that after even knowing that there are certain loopholes associated with the emotional driven policies, but for say country like India, there is a huge demand that the sentiment are to be accepted widely and legally. And that is why a question thinks that why does we need emotionally driven policies in India? The first is social justice and correcting historical wrongs. For say, there are some policies need to be emotionally driven to the past injustice and ensure equality in India among the people. How? For say, the policies aimed at marginalized groups are often motivated by ethical and emotional considerations. The example is reservation for SC, STs, OBCs and EWS people, right? Now, one Niti Aayog report which is very important to quote the why this thing is important says that the literacy rate among SCs and STs have improved significantly due to reservation policies in education. And this thing comes to the highlight कि आपको अगर कभी ethics या essay के अंदर कभी कुछ कोड भी लिखना है, then you can highlight this kind of information with the acceptance of John Rawls' theory of justice, where he said that it supports preferential treatment for disadvantaged group to ensure fair opportunities. Second, quick decision making during crisis. Emotional responses are often necessary in the times of disasters or war to ensure rapid government intervention. For say, a bureaucratic delays can worsen humanitarian crisis if policies are overly rationalized without urgency. For say, the COVID-19 relief measures were there. After the declaration of COVID lockdown, a very important or majorly, or I would say quickly, COVID-19 relief measures were taken by the government in India. How? For say free vaccination, food distribution, relief packages were emotionally driven policies aimed at saving lives. There was even vaccine metri initiative taken by the MEA to safeguard the the humanitarian aspect of the other people of the countries as well, right? For say CMIE data again said that around 80 million people benefited from Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, where the food, or I would say free food distribution, were managed by the government throughout the time. And again, to quote this thing on Kantian ethics, they suggest that moral duty sometimes requires prioritizing humanitarian actions over the pure rationality. Third, strengthening national unity and identity. That means that some emotionally driven policies are designed to foster national unity and reinforce common identity. How? For say, policies promoting patriotism, culture, heritage may not always be economically or legally necessary, but they are very much necessary for the long-term social or national cohesion among the people that will drive the national unity. For example, Swachh Bharat Mission. During that time, the critics argued that the focus more on symbolism, but the structural sanitation reforms, it significantly improved rural sanitation awareness. The UNICEF study 2021 said that open defecation reduced by 60% in rural India just due to behavioral changes. This unity led to this kind of results that is visible nowadays in rural India. And again, to safeguard the point that we have just discussed, a constructivist theory in the international relations emphasizes the role of emotions and narratives in shaping national policies. Now the way forward, how a country like India or the other country should move forward. The first is strengthening data-driven governance. For say, Policy should be informed by economic, scientific and social research rather than the sentiment. One example to quote is, for say, Kerala's Nava Kerala mission. It focuses on health and education reforms based on the real-time data analysis. Second, stakeholders consultation and debate. Policies should be framed with thorough public discussion, expert inputs and parliamentary debate. One thing that comes to my mind is one of the recent initiative of the Brazil, where not recent, but in Brazil, during the budget time, the public's disclosure or public's consultation regarding their things needed to be incorporated in the budget are discussed or widely accepted. For say, even the example is Sweden's deliberative democracy model ensures citizenship participation before policy enactment. So, two examples is, one is the Brazil's related to the budget. Second is Sweden's deliberative democracy ensures citizen participation before policy enactment. Third is institutional mechanisms for policy evaluation. For say, Niti Aayog and Economic Advisory Council should play a stronger role in evaluating policy feasibility before the implementation is made. Why do we say so? For say, there was a scheme called Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Even in the Niti Aayog report, it was said that the implementation has been flawed. Right? Then afterwards, the government of India got its eyes open and started working on those things. Right? So, this is this institutional mechanism. Fourth one is legislative oversight to prevent populism. That means that fiscal policy should undergo rigorous scrutiny by parliament committees to assess the long-term impact. For say example, Fiscal Responsibility in the Budget Management Act prevent reckless public spending. And to quote this thing, there was a second IAS recommendation that says that institutionalize impact assessment committees before rolling out major policies to avoid reactionary decision making. This is a practice question over your screen. And students, I hope that you are getting a lot from this daily news analysis initiative of the Next IAS. Keep watching for your own betterment, for better understanding that how and to what extent you need to understand the topic for your UPSC examination preparation. God bless you. All the best. Thank you. And keep watching daily news analysis.